So on the practice quiz problems on number 1, your very first step is to isolate your square root, which it is. And then you want to check the number on the other side because this is asking you for the principal root, which is positive. So if this happened to have been a negative, that would have been no solution. So we're good to go. So now if I just rewrite this, the square root of 7x plus 15 is equal to 8. What I'm going to do is I'm going to square both sides. So I'm going to square this side and I'm going to square this side. And so this is going to be a 7x plus 15 is equal to 64. I'm going to then solve that minus 15 minus 15. 7x is equal to, and I'm going to end up getting a 49 for this. And then I'm going to divide by 7 and I get x is equal to 7. And that's our answer. We don't have to check what's on the other side because it is an 8. We just want to make sure that underneath the radical, I don't get a negative, and I don't. Okay, if I put a 7, that's going to be a positive underneath. We're good to go. On number 2, what you want to pay attention to here is that we have a situation where this and this are both 7x plus 2. So I am going to let u equal 7x plus 2. And so I'm going to have 8u squared minus 2u minus 1 equals 0. I am going to factor that. So I'm going to do a box to diamond. I'm going to put the 8u squared and the negative 1, which is a negative 8u squared, has to add to the negative 2u right there. That's going to be a negative 4u and a 2u. So a negative 4u and a 2u. So then when I'm focusing on this 8u squared, what multiplies to get me that? It could be an 8 and a 1 or a 2 and a 4, but seeing the 4 here and the 2 here, it is not going to be 8 and 1. It's going to be a 4 and a 2. 4u times a negative 1 to get you a negative 4u. 2u times a positive 1 to get a 2u. So I have a 4u plus 1, 2u minus 1. I set these equal to 0. So when I set this equal to 0, I'm going to get a negative 1/4. When I set this equal to 0, I get a 1/2. Now, we have to remember that u is equal to a 7x plus 2. So I am going to write 7x plus 2 equals a negative 1/4. And 7x plus 2 is equal to a 1/2. I personally would fraction bust. So I am going to multiply everything in the first equation by 4 by 4 by 4 and get a 28 plus x plus 8 is equal to, those are going to cancel out and I get a negative 1. So I'm going to get a 28x is equal to a negative 9. I get x is equal to negative 9 over 28. And that's an acceptable answer for this problem. So that will be fine. I don't have any restrictions or things I have to worry about. This one here, I'm going to multiply everything by 2, by 2, by 2, by 2. So that's going to give me a 14x plus 4. Here, the 2's cancel. I get equal 1. I'm going to get a 14x is equal to a negative 3. X is equal to a negative 3/14. And again, that is one of my answers. On number 3. So on 3, we have a situation where we have an absolute value. Okay, so this absolute value here, I need to get that absolute value isolated. So I need to get that by itself. So I am going to have 3 absolute value of 5x plus 13. I am going to minus 8 from both sides. So when I minus 8 from both sides, I'm going to get a negative 9. Then I'm going to divide by 3, divide by 3, divide by 3. And I'm going to get the absolute value of 5x plus 13 is equal to 2x minus 3. At this point, where my absolute value is isolated, I look to see what I have on the other side. And I want to make sure that this is not a negative. So this is where I'm going to check my solutions, because when they say extraneous solutions, that means extra solutions that don't work. I could get such an answer here. So I am going to take 5x plus 13, which is inside my opposite value, set it equal to 2x minus 3. That's going to be one equation. My second equation, I'm going to take the 5x plus 13, which is in the opposite value, and set equal to the opposite of this. And the opposite is going to be a negative 2x plus 3. It's really making the whole 2x minus 3 opposite, which would be a negative 2x, and a negative times a negative is a positive. Okay. So that's what I'm doing there. So now I'm going to solve. So for this one, I'm going to minus 2x from both sides to get x's on the same side. I get 3x plus 13 is equal to negative 3. I'm going to minus 13. You want to make sure that you're taking things away from the x. So that's going to give me a negative 16. I divide by 3, and I get a negative 16 thirds. Now remember, I needed to check this and see if when I plugged it into there, am I going to get a positive, or a negative, or 0? This is going to give a negative when I plug it in, so that's not going to be an answer. For the other one, I'm going to add 2x to both sides. I get a 7x plus 13 is equal to 3. I'm going to minus 13, 7x is equal to negative 10. I'm going to divide by 7, and I get a negative 10 sevenths. And again, I want to plug that in. And if I plug that in here, is it going to give me a negative? And yes, it is. It's going to give a negative, and we cannot have an absolute value equal to a negative, so that's not a solution. So my final answer is no solution on number 3. Now on number 4, what you want to pay attention to is I have this square root of 2x minus 9. That's what I'm going to let u equal. I'm going to let u equal the square root of 2x minus 9, and then I'm going to rewrite this as 5u squared is equal to 125u. Next thing I need to do is I need to get my two bases, the 5 and the 125 to be the same base. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite 125 as a 5 cubed. Okay, so this here is really a 5 cubed. So I'm going to have 5u squared, that's staying. Here, instead of writing 125, I'm going to write 5 cubed. Then power to power, I'm going to multiply here. So I am going to get a 5u squared, 5 to the u squared is equal to 5, and then the 3 and the u are going to multiply, and I get a 3u. When my bases are the same, I can set my exponents equal. So I'm going to have u squared is equal to 3u. I am going to subtract 3u to get 0 because now I have a quadratic. I'm going to factor a u from both terms. This is going to give me u equals 0. This is going to give me u equal 3, which would be fine if I was solving for u. But remember, it wasn't a u. U was the square root of 2x minus 9. So I'm going to take the square root of 2x minus 9 equals 0, which I have to check and make sure that that's not negative. Otherwise, it would have been no solution. So that's good. I'm going to work that out. And then I'm going to do the same over here. Square root of 2x minus 9 equals 3. Again, that's not a negative, so I can work that out. So to undo a square root, I'm going to square both sides. So I am going to square this side, and I'm going to square this side. So I'm going to get 2x minus 9 equals 0. I'm going to add 9. I am going to divide by 2. And so I get x is equal to 9 halves as one answer. For the other one, I'm going to square both sides, and I get a 2x minus 9 equals 9. I'm going to add 9 to both sides. I get 2x is equal to 18. I'm going to divide by 2, and I get x equals 9. And that's my second answer. So hopefully this helps you out on the review for the quiz.